Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Online Smicha. I'd like to quote a Medrash Rabbah, Parshas Teruma, Perek Lamed Hey, on the pasuk V'asisa es hakrashim lemishkan atze shitim oimdim. That the Eibishter says that the Mishkan should be made from cedar wood, atze shitim oimdim, and Rashi says that it should be placed derech gedilasan, the way it grew, and there's beautiful perushim about the oimdim part. But the specific wood that they used was atzei shittim. Says the Medrash, Lama atzei shittim. Why specifically this type of wood? Answers the Medrash, Lama da kadosh baruch hu derech eretz l'deiros. The Torah Hashem is teaching us something derech eretz for the future generations. She'im yavakesh adam livneis beisai me'ilan she'esa peris. If somebody decides that he needs logs to build a cabin or to build a home, and he's using the log, he's chopping down a tree that produces fruit, we tell him, Uma melech malchei amlachim, sha'akol shaloi. Look, Hashem that has everything in the world belongs to him. Kisha'aymer lases mishkan, when he says, please build a mishkan, a dwelling place for me, Amar, Hashem says, Leisavi elameilan she'ena eisepeiris. Only use wood, logs, beams that don't produce fruit. Atze shitim. Atem, you guys, alachas kama v'kama. Of course, you guys, if you need wood, don't chop down a tree that's oisepri. It's interesting that in Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, Perek Lamed Daled, he mentions that Shisha koilan hailach misayfa oilam va'at sayfai. 6 different people, different acts that a person does. The sound of what he does travels, and one of them travels from one side of the world to the other. And one of them, he says, and somebody knocks down the tree, cuts down a tree that's producing fruit. Oh, there's a sound that penetrates throughout the whole world. The Marsha says that when the Nachash was trying to seduce Chava to do an Avera with the tree and the Eitz Hadas, how did he get her to do it? Says the Marsha, the way he convinced Chava you're allowed to eat the fruits of the tree, he says, no, eating is not the problem. The problem is that Hashem doesn't want you to chop down the tree before it's needed, before it's time. But eating, there is no problem, and she fell for it. Now, from this statement, and the Gemara in Baba Kama Daf Tzadik Beis, Amid Beis, the Gemara clearly says that you're not allowed to chop down a tree. Now, these were just beautiful medrashim, but let's look in Shulchan Aruch, look in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch Harav, Hilchas Shmiras Guf Nefesh Ubal Tashchis, Seif Yudalid. The Alter Rebbe speaks about how you're not allowed to destroy things, just to damage things. And then he says, V'chein ha-mekalkel shar kol dover, haroi lehonis boi b'nei adam. Anybody who destroys anything that's still able to be used, people could gain benefit from it. Oiver b'loisesa. He transgresses a loises in the Torah. The Torah says, Leisashchis es eitza. Do not destroy the trees around the cities. Ve'im his hira Torah al shal nachrim, and if Hashem didn't allow you to destroy trees that belong to goyim, and what type of goyim? Shem nilchamim imayim, which you are at war with. Kal v'chaymer liYisrael. Even obviously, how much more so? You shouldn't chop down a tree that belongs to a Yid. Or yafilu mishal hefker. You shouldn't just chop down trees for a hobby. Vafilu kavanasei, and even if his intention why he chops down this fruit tree is kedei lahares kas v'chema, he wants to show that he's a strong man. He wants to show that people, to do an act that people should say, "Wow, this guy is strong. Let's make sure we follow his rules," or to show lahatel emal b'nei beisei, to install fear on his family because his family is not behaving well nicely. The halach is he's not allowed to. Says the Alter Rebbe in Sif Tezvav, this is only It's only if he does it, he chops down the tree to destroy it. If he's doing the knocking down the tree, chopping down the tree is actually a takana, a certain way. Mutar lekalkel im efshel lesaken al yidei kilkel zeh, el al yidei kilkel zeh. Then if this is the only way he could fix the situation, is by destroying the tree, he's allowed to. Kagoin explains the Alter Rebbe. Give me an example. Elon Michael, if there is a fruit tree, shemachish esakarka, that's weakening all the ground around it, umazikli ilonis acher matoivim, it's causing damage because it's sucking up all the sustenance or whatever it is, it's weakening all the trees around it. So then, destroying one will help the other. V'chein, in dam of yikarim lebinyan yoisem alechel, if the value that you could get from this tree is more money than what you get from the fruits from it, v'chol kayetza bay, or anything like these situations, be'elu, these kilkulim shar dvarim, ve'ein tzarich leimayim bekalkalei amanasa satin gufay. How much more if a person is destroying this tree to get today to be able to make it itself better, and he gives different examples that to make him better. He's burning a table, he's burning a chair because he needs wood for a fire. So he's benefiting, he needs a fire. And he goes on to explain into Sif Zion, Kol Elon Srak. Elon Srak is a tree that doesn't produce any fruit, similar to the Atzei Shittim. Mutter l'kaitz, you're allowed to chop that tree, afilu ein tzarech leklal, even if he doesn't need it. Or a Elon Michael, or a fruit tree that's his skin, that's already very old, and it's only producing very small amounts that it doesn't even pay the labor you put in to let it go, to make it grow. You're also allowed to chop it down. So here you pretty much clearly see the definition of you should stay away from it, stay away from cutting down trees, based on extension to Leisashchis Eitzah, based on extension what the Gemara says in Baba Kama. But we know that on top of this, Reb Yehuda HaChassid said that it's a sakana to knock down the tree. It's a sakana, it's some kind of danger, Kabbalistic danger, whatever it is. It says, and it's actually brought, what's the sakana? In Gemara Psachim Daf Nun Amud Beis, Rashi says that those who chop down trees to sell, einay roya siman bracha, he'll never see a siman bracha from what he's selling. Why? Mishum sha'akal tmeim v'loyezem aleim. People are very disappointed and very shocked and hurt that you do this. And because people speak negative about this, there is an ayin hara, an evil eye. And the evil eye causes terrible things. Now the question is obvious, and the Mefarshim go on to explain, I don't understand. If the Gemara already says it's usher, and it's perhaps an extension to a clear lav, where does Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid come in on top of it? So Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid is basically telling you no tricks. No tricks meaning if, some say that if, even when there is reason halachically allowed to chop down the tree, don't forget there is the second thing, there's the sakana. But yet we find that the examples the Alter Rebbe gave when you're allowed to cut down the tree, if it's a tree that produces any fruit, even, and this is clearly written in Poskim, even if it's producing fruit that are sour, in Shailas Chuvas Avnei Tzedek, Yeridea Simon Mem Hey, he says, even if it's producing sour fruit, as long as it's producing, if you don't have the other reasons to cut it down, chop it down, you're not allowed to. And again, there is the lav, there is the halachic problem, and then there could be the sakana on top of it. What happens if a person needs to do this and he feels very, very guilty? One of the harama, some question of that, it looks like a trick, is that you actually give it away to a guy, and if you give it away to a guy, then it's his tree. Once it's his tree, you could chop it down. Does it look like a trick? Does it look like a setup or not? That's a discussion in halacha. And in Paiskim. And if you do that to give it away to a guy, some say you have to give away not only the tree, but you have to make sure the root and the part of the ground around it, maybe then there's a way around it. So we see what's best to stay away from and when halacha allows it to take place.